So I'm just sowing these little cordon tomatoes, little tiny seeds these, but I generally just put 1 or 2, depending on how expensive the seeds are, in a 9-cell tray, and then I'll just pick out the ones, or snip off the ones that I don't want if multiple germinate. So I just like my fingers just to be slightly damp, and so you just kind of push your finger in there and you get a few seeds on the end there. And just lightly cover them with the compost again.
So Dad, where do we store the tomatoes now?
So these tomatoes like it nice and warm, so sunny windowsill in mid-April would be fine, but if you're starting them earlier, sort of January, February, March sort of time, then you could use a propagator as well.
Okay, so we sowed these about 2 weeks ago, Dad, so what are we going to do with them now?
So we've got 2 batches. These are the ones we did 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
These are the ones we did 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
And so these we can just leave to grow on for a bit, probably 2 or 3 weeks time. They'll be nice big plants and they'll need potting on into a bigger container. These are ready for pricking out now.
Okay.
So we're going to prick these out. So if you want to take those away.
Yeah. So what are we doing with these now?
We're just pricking them out now.
Okay, and how do we do that? What does that mean?
So you kind of just loosening the soil. It doesn't really matter what you loosen it with. I often do it with a little screwdriver, but I just found this little bit of plastic because I couldn't find the screwdriver. So you've just got your little seedling held by the leaves there.
Yeah.
And we're just dropping it in that hole. We'll just do a few more. Just sort of loosen it off a little bit.
They look so fragile. I think I'd be scared of damaging them doing that.
Yeah, tomatoes are really robust actually, and you can just kind of push them in by the roots there into the holes.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it, and then just close the holes up.
Okay, so how much do we need to water them now?
So we don't need a huge amount because they're still tiny little plants. They can't absorb too much water, so we're just giving them a little water around the edges here. And then we'll come back and give them another water in a couple of days' time. And then once it's grown away nice and strongly, we can start watering them a bit more.
Yeah. Okay. So where are we storing them now?
So they just need to go in this polytunnel.
Okay.
And if there's any risk of frost, then we'll cover them with fleece.
These tomatoes are looking a bit grotty, Dad.
They are, Tess, and that is because this bed was full of spinach until last night.
Oh, right.
And so I didn't want to plant them, and so I've kind of been hanging on, and so they're sort of getting a bit weak and, they're a bit lacking in nutrients and all that sort of thing. But it's a good opportunity to show you how to plant tomatoes and how to kind of get them recovered a bit.
Yeah.
Right? So the first thing is we haven't had any rain for a month.
Yeah.
So this ground's really dry.
Yeah, you can see.
So I dug that hole last night and I filled it with water, and I'm going to fill it with water again just to get some water down there in the root zone. And that'll kind of encourage this tomato plant to seek water deep down.
Yeah.
So we'll come back to that in a minute when that's drained. Okay, so what we're going to do first is we're going to remove all these lower leaves.
Yeah.
All these
Yellow
diseased leaves,
ones.
mildewy and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So we take those off. And I think we'll take those off as well, because we also want to remove any leaf that's touching the soil.
Yeah.
So I think when we tried that in the pot, in the hole there, that one's also touching the soil. So we'll take that one off. And actually that one is as well. So we'll take that one off as well. So you can see this is going to be pretty deep now.
Yeah.
So we need to just dig that hole out a touch, just make a little bit more space for it. But tomatoes don't mind being planted deep.
Okay.
So they're going to be perfectly happy. And all these, if you get close up there, all those little hairs there on that stem,
Yeah.
they're all going to grow into little roots.
Ah, see.
So you can see you're going to get a lot of extra roots.
Yeah.
So it's fine. So
Does
just
that
settle
improve
that
the
in there.
crop?
Yeah, I mean, you get feeder roots, they'll take more nutrients out of the soil,
Yeah.
and you'll get roots going down to get access to more water.
Yeah.
So that's nice now. So we're just going to tie that in, probably here with string, just like we've done on these others.
Yeah.
And we'll come back and do a bit more management on this in a few weeks' time. But in the meantime, we'll go and look at some of the same tomatoes that were planted a few weeks earlier than these, and so look a lot healthier, and they're ready to have a little work done on them.
Okay, perfect.
So these plants are looking a lot nicer.
Yeah.
But there's a lot wrong with this plant, even though it looks superficially kind of okay. This is a cordon, or an indeterminate tomato. It's going to climb all the way up, well, not climb, but it's going to grow all the way up that cane there.
Yeah.
And we're going to tie it in as we go with string.
Okay.
But you know, with these sorts of plants, you've got to kind of manage them, otherwise they just get huge and they'll all tangle up together.
Yeah.
And there'll be no airflow and they'll get disease. So you want to take off all the side shoots. So that's an example. And here's another side shoot here where this main stem joins with this leaf. So we're going to take that out. And there's another side shoot there, again, where that leaf joins with that main stem. So we're going to take that side shoot out. And here's one just starting. Can you see this little tiny shoot there?
Yeah.
So we can take that one out. And there's another one just starting here, again, between the stem and the leaf. So we're going to take that one out. So the little ones you can just take out with your fingers, but the big ones, it's best to snip them. So now we've got rid, I think, of all the side shoots. What we need to do is take this leaf off here where it's touching the soil. We could probably put it up there, but I don't think there's any point. Oh, and there's another side shoot. You do miss these side shoots sometimes.
You've got to really
So there's another leaf here that's touching the soil. So I think I'll leave that plant like that.
Yeah.
And then in a few weeks' time, we'll come back and take this lower leaf off as well.
Yeah.
And we can just look at another example here again. We've got another side shoot. We've got another side shoot here. We've got another side shoot down there. And another side shoot here. So lots of side shoots. And so that is looking, again, much better. You can see much better airflow there.
Absolutely.
So what do we do with all these side shoots? Because it seems a shame to sort of remove all these.
Yeah.
Well, what you can do is you can just plant these. So if we find a sort of medium-sized one like this,
Yeah.
you can just take that leaf off and that leaf off.
Yeah.
And then just pass me that pot there, Tess, which I've pre-watered. And then just make a hole with your finger. You can pop that in there.
Oh, perfect.
And all those little roots that we saw, or those little hairs on the stem, they will root and make a nice new little plant. And you can actually get a decent crop even at this time of year. So it's just the beginning of June. You can get a crop off a plant, you know, started like that.
Yeah.
So that needs to now go somewhere where there's not much heat and not much sun for a few days while it just gets some roots, because otherwise it would just die because it wouldn't be able to get enough water in the sunshine.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Perfect.